Welcome as everyone's joining. We'll give you all a
Gosh.
second to get in here. It's nice to see so many of you joining early in the morning here. This is the Career Center Career Internship panel, so hopefully you all know you're in the right spot. We'll wait to get started till we get everyone in the room. I see our numbers still going up. Welcome, everyone. Okay, I think maybe we've got about everyone. Oh, we're still going up. Again, this is the Career Center Internship panel. So hang on while everyone gets in here. Okay, maybe we're all here now. All right, well, maybe I'll jump in and get started. Hi, welcome to the Career Center Internship panel. My name is Jennifer Finney. I'm a career advisor in the Career Center on campus. I am an engineer. I went to WashU and got my electrical engineering bachelor's. And then I've gone on to get a counseling degree, and I love working in the Career Center and helping you all with everything related to internships and careers throughout your whole time here. We're going to have a really cool panel today where you're not going to listen to me. You're going to listen to some students talk about their career experiences. But before we jump to them, I'm going to let my co-hosts here introduce themselves. So we're going to start with Kelly.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kelly Delphos. I'm the Director of Industry Relations and Career Engagement for the McKelvey School of Engineering. Where Jennifer works a lot on the student side, I work a lot on the company side. So partnering with companies to recruit students on campus, partnering with companies to engage with student organizations and mentoring programs and on class projects. So I'm kind of on the other side working with the company. So I look forward to meeting all of you at some point.
So Kelly and I are going to try to moderate questions here with our panelists. And then we also have Robin. I'm going to let Robin introduce herself real quick.
Hi everyone, I'm Robin Shepard and I am an engineer. I am an alumni from Washington University. I have my master's in chemical and doctorate in chemical engineering and have been an adjunct professor and love mentoring students. So hopefully I'll see some of you at the Career Center.
So just in terms of housekeeping, I'm sure you've all been doing this all week and you know how it works, maybe better than we do in some ways. I'm going to have all of our student panelists introduce themselves and give some background, but then we want to hear questions from you. So I encourage you to write questions in the Q&A box. I guess you can also do it in the chat. I think the Q&A box is nice because then depending on the answer, we may type in an answer or have the students answer that for you. But please do at any time start asking those questions. They can be general for everyone, or you can ask specifically based on the students and what they say their experiences are. So yeah, we'll go with that. And we only have an hour, I know, and then we'll have to get off. So we'll try to get through as much information as we can. I'm going to start by just asking if the panelists, if we can go around, if you would introduce yourself. You can tell us your name, what you're studying, how you decided that, briefly, not a whole story, what your internship was and how that may have like confirmed your plans or even made you change your plans. Can we start with Amanda?
Hi, my name is Amanda. I'm a fourth year computer science student at WashU, and I decided to be CS because I came in not knowing what I wanted to do. I actually entered art sci as a P&P major, and then I took the intro class and I really enjoyed it. And I have worked for Less Knowing CRM, which is a local tech company in the area, and then I've also worked for Google and Microsoft last 2 summers. Yeah.
Awesome, great. How about Alex next?
My name is Alex. I'm a fourth year mechanical engineering student. I originally entered WashU wanting to study BME, but I switched to mechanical engineering after, I guess actually before my first year. So not long as a BME. I've had a year-long co-op at bioMérieux, which is a local biotech company working in hardware integration. And then this past summer, I worked as a mechanical engineering intern at an autonomous plane startup in California.
Great. Hannah, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Hannah. I am a fourth year and I'm studying electrical engineering. I came into WashU originally wanting to be systems engineering, and I had my first internship experience at a local company in Maryland, where I'm from, and my boss essentially convinced me to change to EE, and I am. And the past 2 summers I've been interning at Northrop Grumman, working on a satellite program.
Carly?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Carly. I'm going to be a junior this year studying BME. I chose my major because when I was looking at schools, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I liked science in general, bio especially. So I thought BME would be a good starting point at the very least, as I figured out what I wanted to do. And then from there, I saw it was a pretty versatile degree to have. There's a lot you can do with it. So I still don't know exactly what I want to do, but I guess that's the great thing about internships. And this summer I worked at MCRA, MCRA, and it's a smaller company based in DC. And what they do is they're a consulting firm that helps people who are trying to make medical devices. So they help them get it to market, get it FDA approved, all that. So yeah, it was a pretty cool summer.
Awesome. All right. And then Katie?
Hi everyone, I'm Katie. I am a fourth year student, which is crazy. I feel like I was in your shoes yesterday. And I am studying systems engineering, and I would echo what it sounds like most of the other panelists have kind of explained, how they came in thinking they were going to do one thing. There's always somebody who thinks that they're going to do pre-health and doesn't end up doing pre-health. So that was me. I came in doing bio, and I ended up doing systems engineering just because I really liked the types of problems that we were solving, and the professors were really encouraging. So that's how I ended up doing systems engineering, and it's really been helpful because it's a very versatile degree. And then this past summer, I worked at Anheuser-Busch doing an internship with them. And then the 2 summers before that, I was interning with Medtronic. So lots of medical device people I hear on the call, which is pretty cool, Carly.
Awesome. Thank you all for those great introductions. I didn't plan it, but we seem to have a theme of switching majors and switching goals, right? And that's okay. That's really common, and that's really helpful. So we're going to go with some questions. One question at the beginning here, I guess, what year should a student pursue an internship? I think that's a tricky question, but I don't know if anybody has a thought on that. I'm not going to call on you specifically. Yeah.
I guess I can speak to that a little bit. So I think I'm the youngest one here. So I guess I'll start by saying the summer after my freshman year, I didn't have an internship at all. I actually did it was a study abroad program the first year they did it. It was a month long and in London for first year engineering students. And I know we have Melanie Osborne on the call, so she was the director of that. But that was really cool. Keep an eye out for that, quick plug. But then this year I started looking for stuff to do for the summer. And I think it's kind of hard a little bit as an engineering student. There are some just fundamental things you have to know in terms of like science and math. So it can be kind of hard to find like a typical like engineering like research and development job when you're a bit younger. So actually what I was doing this summer, like no calculus, no math, no science at all. It was a lot of maybe more like reading and like presentation type of stuff. So I guess it depends on the internship that you're looking for. Like if you're looking for, just kind of the typical, like in a lab, like trying to create all these different products, it might be kind of hard to find that early on. But if you can think of other things you might have an interest in or other skills you want to develop, then I guess there's like no real reason to wait, I guess. You can try to find whatever you can. So yeah.
I think that in terms of like CS stuff, it's a little bit different just because Well, so a lot of like big companies have programs for younger, for like underclassmen. And so specifically, I know at Google and Microsoft, there's the STEP program and the Explore program, where they expect you to come in basically not knowing much, and they're sort of fostering you. I know that like some of those companies also have high school internships, and so it's never too early to start. But it's also never too late. Like if you're, I know this is for first years, but if you're like your junior year or something and you're doing your first internship, it's like people are just looking to see if mostly if you're coachable and less about, like, can you code exactly the way that they want you to.
Okay. I'm going to jump. There's a couple different questions about co-ops. And correct me if I got this confused, but I think we have just Alex who's done a co-op, right? So Alex, would you be willing to just say, there's a question about how co-ops generally work at WashU. I can help with that too. And then what differentiates co-ops and internships? So since you've done both, maybe you want to give your perspective?
Yeah, for sure. So co-ops are typically longer than just an internship. So your internship will run from probably May till either July or August, and your co-op will take you through generally a summer and a semester. When I did my co-op in the St. Louis area, it ended up being from January all the way through November. So I took 2 full semesters off in the summer. And on the WashU side, it was pretty easy. You just send a couple emails and fill out some forms and you're kind of good to go. As far as the actual like hunt for a co-op goes and then working there, I can't speak for other majors, but I know for mechanical engineering, sometimes it's easier to find co-ops because students are less likely to take time off and take a semester off. And so having being employed for longer is also more appealing sometimes to a company because you're putting more time in. So the rationale where I worked was they felt it would take a full 10 weeks to bring their interns up to speed, and then we'd be at the end of the program. So instead they offered 10 weeks of basically training, and then you had the second half of the program to actually like do work and contribute. That's not to say that you can't do both of those things in a 10-week internship. That was just the philosophy of that company. So it gives a great opportunity to put in anywhere between, I guess it's 6 and 12 months working at a company instead of 3.
Great, thank you. That was really great. So hopefully that helps with the co-op. Co-ops are great experiences, but there's limitations and reasons why people don't do them too. So we can certainly answer more questions, but hopefully that answers those too. We had a question about living at home while taking an internship and whether there's connections in different parts of the world. Anyone have thoughts on that?
Sorry, Katie, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, I mean, I think that before this pandemic unfortunately kind of derailed things for a lot of people and a lot of companies, it was definitely more difficult to like find connections like across the world. But I think that like one of the really cool things now is that like WashU has really prioritized like expanding our network to make sure that all students have opportunities no matter where we are. So just generally, I didn't think anybody else was going to answer, so go ahead after me. But I would just say generally, like there are opportunities all across the world, definitely.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, going off of that now with the pandemic, I feel like there are a lot more opportunities to do things virtually. I know I did my internship this summer virtually from home, and I think companies are going to be a lot more open to that in the future.
Yeah, I also did my internship virtually this summer, which turned out to be a good thing because the company was based in DC and I'm from New Jersey. So it was nice to be able to be at home, but still having this great experience. So I definitely agree with what Hannah said. I think this summer really changed a lot of things. So hopefully more people would be open to it in the future.
And then just like we have students that come from all over the country and the world, we have alumni from all over the country and the world. And so we do a lot to really try to tap into our alumni networks to offer opportunities for students. So absolutely, if you're looking, to go out to Boston or to LA or something, we can work with you to help identify alumni in that area.
Yeah, the alumni are a great resource. The other resource I was going to mention is on our website, the Career Center website, a really popular page is the outcome data, where you can see where students go after graduation. This is post-graduation as opposed to internships, but it's going to be similar information. And we have students and alums that go all over the country. So there's always some people in Missouri, but there's lots on the coasts and everywhere in between. Okay, we had a couple of CS specific questions targeted towards Amanda. One was, did you have any background in CS before you decided on that major? But a kind of related one was about what classes you took before your first internship. And even like students saying they feel like they don't have like very much experience in CS yet, and where's the good places to start? So that makes sense.
Yeah. So the first question, yes and no. I took an online course when I was in like eighth grade or something like that in C++, and I hated it, and it was like the worst thing I'd ever done, and I swore that I was never going to do computer science again. Obviously that didn't happen. There's a lot there with, I was trying to be rebellious because my family is all engineers and everything, and so but then I got to WashU, and so I had a little bit of background from that class, not much, but it was mostly like, I know what variables are, I know like what a for loop does, I know what if statements are and stuff. And that sort of helped me, I think, in 131. Side note, I'm actually doing a project where I'm trying to write a proposal to the CS department to add a recitation to 131, because there is a really big disparity between students who come in with absolutely no CS background and those who like come in knowing like a little bit. That's not to say that people who take 131 who have no CS background like will fail. Like it's a class where if you try and you like talk to people and you like use the resources available, you can definitely do really well on it. Sorry, what was the other questions were like, what classes did I take before first internship?
Mm-hmm.
So my first internship was really a fellowship at Lesson on CRM right after my freshman year. I had taken 131, which is the intro class, as well as 132, which is sort of like an Internet of Things and Arduino class. And I think I took Calc 3 freshman spring, as well as 240, which was like the logic class there. But I didn't come in knowing anything in particular that was relevant to that internship because it was a lot of front end stuff. So for people who don't know, front end, like if you're working on a website, front end is like the visible part of things. So things like CSS and HTML, JavaScript sort of, and then back end is like sort of like the workings behind everything. So in that fellowship, I did a lot of learning and like picking up things. I think the biggest thing to know before going into an internship is like having at least like a base of like knowing how to pick up a language. Like once you know one language, like WashU starts off with Java, but once you know one, like you can pick up other things because most of it is about like understanding how syntax works and like how languages are structured in general. But for those people who don't have previous experience, I would say don't worry about it too much. There are a lot of resources. I myself am an engineering tutor for 131, and it's like a lot of people have good experiences in the intro class, and it's converted a lot of people that I know to CS. So I wouldn't worry about it too much, I think.
Thank you, Amanda. All right, so in a more general question that I think any or all of you could ask, I answer. Someone's asking, what time during the year should we apply for internships? Do applications tend to close in the fall? And I'm going to actually shift that question a little, not just should. When did you get your internship? When did you apply? When did you get it? But if you could probably all weigh in on that, but at least a couple of you.
Yeah, so I actually started looking for an internship. My parents were kind of nagging me a little bit over Thanksgiving fall break on what I wanted to do for the summer. And I was like, I've got so much time to figure it out. Like, why do they keep on nagging me about it? So then I actually went to the Career Center in December. And then early January, I just kind of like looked up online, like BME internship summer 2020. and found just like a few big companies that were pretty close to where I live. So I sent in a few applications there. Didn't get any of those actually. And then the whole pandemic hit. I was like, I guess I'll just try to find like a part-time job, like completely unrelated to science, whatever, I'll make the best of it. But then my neighbor, it turns out, actually knows someone in the industry, and he like heard about what I was kind of looking for. So he passed my resume along and it got forwarded to the company I ended up working for this summer. So then like probably a day after I gave him my resume, I got an email from the recruiter, a quick phone call. And then a week later, I think I pretty much started working at the company at MICRA. So it was a very fast process for me. I think it was the first year they were really doing an internship program. So there were 2 other interns there. And I think I was just kind of a last minute addition. But yeah, it was definitely very quick. I didn't really start looking until May, started in June. And then for next summer, actually, the other day, I submitted 2 applications already. I think a lot of stuff opens in September, at least for like the bigger companies that you hear about. And then hopefully, I have no idea when I'm supposed to hear back, but then I think at least based on my experience from last year, they probably close around December or January. So even though I didn't really get anything the way I planned to last year, it was a really good experience just kind of going through the process and trying to learn from it. That way this summer, hopefully it will go a bit more smoothly.
Yeah, I think your freshman year, it's obviously when you're CS, like there are a lot of more like openings for like freshman positions where you're like not really as experienced. But like I can't speak for other majors, but for like electrical engineering, for example, I think it's better to kind of target the smaller local companies to you. And my freshman year, I think around April, so pretty late, I was like emailing a lot of companies in my area and I was like, hey, I am a first year student studying this. I've gained these skills in my first year. Can I come work for you? And one of them took me, which was a really great experience. And I learned a lot, so much more than I thought I would. And so it was a really valuable experience. And then after that, it was just, yeah, my sophomore year, I got it at a conference.
Yeah, I would just say, like, I feel like every company has a different timeline. There's never a moment too early, and you're never going to be like too late unless it's like the end of the summer. Then, you probably miss the summer internships for that year. But one thing that I found really useful in my career search has been using CareerLink. I don't know if you guys have been introduced to that yet, but it's basically just like a massive database with a bunch of different companies and a bunch of different job offerings, and they generally have like the timeline. So for me personally, that's how I kind of identified AB as one of the companies that I was interested in Anheuser-Busch. And I think their applications opened probably last week for the upcoming year, and they close in like October. But that's been really helpful for me, is using CareerLink, just because it's kind of a one-stop shop for like all of that information that you might be wondering about with internship timelines.
Okay, thank you. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Alex, were you gonna say something? You're unmuted.
No.
I think, like Hannah mentioned, there are a lot more CS like options, just because there are a lot of like tech options in general. A lot of the big companies do recruit in the fall, so like a lot of the applications are open now. It is a little different because of the pandemic. There's been a hiring freeze at least for new grad opportunities. I think a lot of companies are still looking for internships because they want to feed their programs like that. But you can start applying anywhere as early as like end of August. And then I know that applications for smaller companies go all the way into the spring because they don't want to compete with the bigger tech giants. I personally applied to one thing my freshman year, got it, was really lucky on that front. And I think I interviewed around November. The next year I was doing stuff mostly in like September, October. And I think the entire process, I think I was committed by November, something like that. And then I had gotten a return offer to Google that summer, or like that last year. And so that sped up the process a lot, because a lot of the companies will ask whether or not you have competing offers, and then they'll speed up your timeline depending on that. But usually the process is like technical challenges, and then technical interviews, and then like an on-site, especially just for like the normal like software engineering position.
Awesome. So we get a whole variety of answers again, right? That's the good thing about having different people, because there really will be different situations. I'm seeing some questions that are comparisons. Should you do an internship or research? Which one's better for your resume? If you're pre-med, which one's better? Why co-op versus internship? So I don't know if any of you had thoughts about that, if you were considering one versus the other, or have done both.
I mean, yeah, I haven't done research, but on the co-op internship front, I think I got different things out of them. So I took the co-op during my junior year, or what would have been my junior year. And I think it kind of gave me a little bit of an understanding of what kind of working more full-time was going to look like, because it was just about a full 12 months and a year of like kind of separated from school. And I was obviously still connected to campus. I still interacted with my friends because I lived around the area. But it was much different than like being in a just summer internship when everybody else is on break and everybody's in their programs, right? My friends were still like studying and doing homework, and I was making sure not to like stay out too late so I could wake up for work. So it's just kind of a different experience. But on the flip side, I was able to like take ownership of larger projects within the company and like have more responsibility. And that allowed me to also build my resume in that front, which helps me then land my internship the next summer. So there's kind of give and take there, where there's advantages and disadvantages. It does also, like, depending on your program and depending on the order you take your courses, it can like change around your graduation. So like I ended up taking it as a full year, but had I just taken a semester, I would have graduated in the fall instead of in the spring. So you can end up kind of misaligned in some of your courses. So that's just something you need to plan out. It doesn't make it impossible. And there's, generally speaking, like never a situation where you couldn't take a co-op and not graduate, but it will kind of change your semesters around a little bit.
I would say just generally for like, I've never done a co-op and I've never done research, but just even within the internship search process, there's so many different opportunities. And so it can be kind of daunting at first to like narrow it down. And then when you expand that to include co-ops and research, I can imagine how you feel pretty overwhelmed pretty quickly. But I would say, like, as important as it is to build a resume, there's also a lot of value in building skills. And so going into that process, understanding what skills and like having identified what skills you are specifically interested in like developing will really help you make those decisions, because it will kind of inform, like if you're more interested in building out like maybe your presentation skills or like your corporate, like, I don't know, I'm thinking of some like corporate jargon, you know, but if that's like something that you're more interested in, maybe look more for internships than research. But if you're more interested in maybe working full time around the year, but maybe like part-time during the school year, then research is a really great opportunity to do that, because you can work part-time during the school year and then ramp up to a full 40 hours a week during the summer. So just think about like the different skills that you're trying to develop and also like the time commitment that you're willing to put in. And that's a really good way to kind of start to narrow things down.
Yeah, so just want to mention something quick about research. So I had a position very briefly. I got it in March before I went home for spring break and never went back. But for anyone who's BME, I can't really speak to the other majors, but there's a lot of really great opportunities at the med school if that's something you're interested in. And research is pretty great because depending on the position and who you're working with, it can be pretty flexible. You know, from only a few hours a week to more of like maybe like 10 or 15 hours a week. So I've had a lot of friends who have done it too. And if you're BME and looking for something like that, it's definitely very doable to get.
I know that this question is probably directed towards like the actual engineering majors, but there is such a thing as computer science research. I didn't know this until last year, but there are professors on campus. Specifically, I can name Dr. Angelina Lee is doing research in like parallel programming and like I think she's developing Cheetah, which is a framework for concurrent programming in C. If you find something that's really interesting to you and you want to work on it, summer research is a great opportunity for that. I don't actually know anyone who's done computer science research as an undergrad, but I know that if you want to go into like academics or into grad school and do that research, the CS professors would be a good people to talk to. I think that this definitely refers more to people who are planning on continuing to grad school or for those different engineering majors. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the theme we're hearing here again is there's no one answer and no one path, right? There's lots of good things. So we just want you to get experience. And that could be an internship, it could be research, it could be both. So there's not necessarily going to be a one size fits all answer, right? It's going to depend on what you're interested in. I'm going to try to make sure we cover a couple of these things real quick. There was a question about anyone doing an internship while taking classes. I don't think anyone here has done that. Okay, so it's definitely something you can do, but it's not as common because you're busy with classes, right? I see it most frequently where someone maybe do a summer internship and might continue with that internship into the fall, for instance. So it's definitely a possibility, but that's the nice part about co-op. Like Alex was talking about, you can work full-time and not do classes. Get a break. But it is possible to be taking classes and working at the same time. There was also a question about whether you would graduate late on co-op, and I think we kind of covered that, but just to clarify, yeah, if you take the semester completely off from classes, you would theoretically extend your graduation by a semester unless you are ahead on classes, but that's fine. You're not paying for an extra tuition, semester of tuition. You know, it doesn't hurt to graduate later, but that is one reason some people don't co-op is they want to graduate on time. Or because of the classes they're taking, it gets trickier. But realistically, co-op is a great option. So don't just rule it out.
Can I interject a little bit on the working full-time or working internship? One of my friends actually, he's also a CS major, so obviously that makes things easier because he can work remotely. But he had an internship and then he extended into working full-time like during the semester and is able to get everything done because his meetings don't coincide with his classes and he's still able to get the work done. So he's working full-time essentially, and they're paying him as such, but he's still doing classes.
And then also thinking more, you know, again, we're talking to first-year students. So there's one question about should first-year students get in contact with the Career Center even if they don't plan on getting an internship? What did you put on your resume before your first internship? How can first-year students begin building their resume? So I'm curious if anyone will weigh in on either what did you do as a first-year student that you recommend they do, or what didn't you do as a first-year student that you recommend they do?
Okay, so one thing that was like really huge for me and unfortunately is going to look a little different this year, but I'm sure there's still going to be the opportunity, is going to career fairs even when you are a freshman. That is something that has been really huge for me in just building out my ability to like speak to people professionally and also helping me like start to identify different companies that recruit specifically at WashU because they know that this is a great place. So like seizing those opportunities, especially when you're a freshman and it like the pressure is maybe a little bit lower than when you're a junior and it's like starting to feel like, oh wow, this is like really my future that like kind of is like riding on this right now. I think learning how to just like how that dynamic works and starting to build out those connections can be really helpful. So I would definitely encourage you to keep your eye open for whatever opportunities those look, however that opportunity looks this fall.
Yeah, definitely agree with the career fairs. I think like learning how to pitch yourself, getting an elevator pitch ready just for like any situation that you're in because you don't really know who you're going to be talking to. And then kind of one thing that kind of took me by surprise, and maybe it shouldn't have, maybe I should have done more research, but technical interviews. I feel like I just didn't expect them. My freshman year, that is. But essentially, you know, they're going to ask you questions about what you know, and they're going to ask you everything on your resume and probably give you like a problem or two that they want you to solve. And mainly they don't want you to always know the correct answer, but they want to see that you're able to think on your feet and that you're able to problem solve. And even if you don't have experience in it, kind of show that you are able to learn on the spot. So I think just kind of having that in mind, and Amanda, you probably have like a lot more experience with technical interviews, just because I know CS ones are like a lot more in depth than probably like EEs, but yeah, so that's something to think about. And I think I saw a question about like what skills to put on your resume. Just, I think that's like what you should think about with your elevator pitch. And I'm sure you did things in high school. You can put those on it.
Yeah, I mean the best. Oh, sorry, Carly, if you
No,
were.
you go ahead. You
Okay.
go ahead.
The best advice I got from the Career Center was to kind of make sure your story is told on your resume year to year. So I didn't have an internship my first year. So instead I took a chemistry and chem lab course at a local college to get that requirement out of the way. And then my sophomore year, I ended up doing an independent study and kind of like unofficial research with a professor that I turned into a paper. And then my third year, I found the co-op and then an internship this year. So what was important for me before I had that co-op was making sure that I kind of represented the skills that I picked up and was telling the story of what I did each summer, even if it wasn't an internship at a prestigious company or it wasn't some super exclusive opportunity. I was still working on skills of research and writing and like technical calculations, et cetera, et cetera. And I was able to represent that like there wasn't necessarily downtime. I was doing something, and it kind of tells that timeline and that story. That was important, I think.
Yeah, so I'll be honest, my freshman year, I wasn't really very career minded. I was just kind of living my life, trying to get used to college. You know, I don't think I ever really went to a career fair or anything like that. You know, just trying to see more what clubs are out there, trying to like meet people, do well in my classes. So I wasn't really like thinking ahead for an internship really. But some advice I would give is try to find maybe one or two clubs that you really, really like and enjoy, where you like the people and the topic, and then maybe try to look into trying to get more of a leadership position within that club. You know, even if it's not paid or a super glamorous internship, it doesn't mean it's not worthwhile. And then the other piece of advice I would give too is just trying to keep putting yourself in new and unfamiliar situations. At least for me, that was really big. For example, like going to London for the summer, or even just going through the interview process for the internship I got, you know, it was definitely stuff I was pretty nervous about. You know, putting myself out there and talking to all these new people, like it didn't really come naturally, or even like trying to join all these new clubs. But if you keep on doing that and keep on getting that practice in, eventually you're going to feel a lot more comfortable and a lot more confident. And at least for me, like I saw that no matter what happens, I'll always be able to like make the best of it, or at least learn something from it. So even if you're not necessarily getting like a super glamorous internship, there's still a lot of ways you can learn and develop skills, just like trying to live your day-to-day life.
Yeah, I think that the emphasis on connections, at least to me, was really important. My freshman year, I went to the Career Center and I met with Phoebe Richards, who is not an engineering advisor, but she had brought something up about the company that I ended up working for, because she had a lot of friends at that place. And she was like, oh, they have like this nice like local tech scene, like maybe you should check it out. It sounds kind of like what you're looking for. And I did, and it worked out. And a lot of like, not necessarily like job opportunities, but like other things that might arise, like you making connections for other people, like you meeting people who might have like information about what you're interested in, is always going to be helpful.
I think now's a good time to put a plug in for our events that we're having this fall, since we kind of brought up the career fair. But I kind of just echo Carly's advice, you know, take this opportunity to really get settled into your classes and get familiar with the culture and your friends, and use, you know, career fairs and other recruitment events to learn about different careers, to ask what you can do as an engineer, to get an idea of what you like and what you don't like. But just in a few short weeks, we have our McKelvey Engineering virtual career spotlight on Tuesday, September 29th. And then 2 days later is the university-wide career fair on October 1st. So there's not only opportunities through WashU to do career fairs, but a lot of student organizations will have career fairs, such as the Society of Women Engineers, the National Society of Black Engineers. There's partners within the community that have career fairs. So, you know, take advantage of as many opportunities as you can, but also don't overwhelm yourself. And all of the companies that are coming and more information about those can be found in CareerLink, as Katie mentioned.
Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, I wanted to say, again, you're all giving such good advice. The plug about student groups is great, right? Internships are good and internships are important, but there's a lot of other things that are going to be equally valuable to you in figuring this out, talking to people, talking to alums, like Kelly said, but getting these other experiences. Companies don't just look at internships. They look at the groups you're a part of. They look at other ways you've built skills. And it's not just the technical skills, it's the people skills. So there's a lot of good things. In terms of building a resume, that's another good lead in for what we want you to do. Checking out the career fair is a really good thing to do. Don't feel super pressured about it, but check it out. But getting the resume going, right? You need a resume. So we do help with that. The Career Center helps with that. On our website, there's a nice link about how to do a resume. And we have a variety of easy ways to get started with that. We have what we call walk-in hours, which are not going to be walk-in. So everything is virtual. Luckily, virtual works really, really well for us, so it shouldn't be a problem. But you can just come and talk to our career peers, our student workers that help with resumes, or one of us over in the engineering hours, and it'll all be through Zoom. Also on our website, we're going to have a live chat where you can go in during business hours and chat with someone, and they'll help direct you to those resources. So through our website and through CareerLink, you'll be able to get help with all of that, which should get you started. And also, as a first-year student, we expect you to have high school things on your resume. So for those of you that are asking questions about that, about how do you build your resume, again, all these things are going to help, joining groups on campus, but you're going to illustrate things you did in high school as well, and that's totally fine. So you'll have plenty to say on there. Okay, so other questions. We don't have a lot of time left. Yeah, one question was again about the areas. What's the best way to pursue an internship if you don't live in an area with many engineering companies? I think we answered that a little bit, but I didn't know if anyone had more to say about that. It's really not location specific.
I just want to say too, if you do live in an area where there isn't really anything, it definitely is an option for some people to move to a new city for the summer. Personally, that's not something I've ever really been interested in so far. You know, like I enjoy having the time at home with my family for the summer, but there are like a ton of people who do stay in St. Louis for the summer. So if you can like find a few friends to maybe room with or something, there definitely are a lot of options in St. Louis. So you definitely can stay.
I would also say there are options outside of St. Louis that could not be in your hometown. I know after my freshman year, I took a leap of faith and I applied to an internship in Minneapolis, being from Seattle, where I'd never been to Minnesota before. And I was fortunate enough that one of my teammates, I'm on the soccer team, and one of my teammates was from Minneapolis. So I lived with her the summer after my freshman year, and her family. So that was really nice to kind of ease my way into living in a new city. And then after my sophomore year, I returned to that internship. And I lived all alone, which was really, like, honestly, a very, like, eye-opening experience. And it kind of, like, challenged me in ways outside of my internship that I wasn't expecting. So if that's something that you're interested in or comfortable with, I would definitely encourage, like, seeking out those opportunities, because you can continue to learn even outside of your internship if you decide to do that.
Usually if you have an internship that's not in the place that you live at, like with your family or in St. Louis, the companies will always give you an opportunity to connect with other interns in the program also. So like not this past summer, but the previous summer, I was in Boulder and I was connected with someone who actually turned out to be my partner on the project that I was working on that summer too. But I mean, there was this huge group chat where basically you can meet up with new people, sort of like coming in and then asking like, does anyone need a roommate? Like what are the housing options that people are looking at and that kind of stuff.
So we are starting to run out of time. We have about 10 minutes left, so we'll still answer some more questions, but I did want to mention a couple of things so I don't forget. In case we don't answer a question, feel free to ask any of us later. So you should hopefully be able to find our information pretty easily. You can go to careercenter.woostel.edu, go through the student website. Also, your four-year advisor in engineering student services are well connected with us. So you could reach out to them and they can connect you to me or any of these students or Kelly, any of us, if you want to ask us more questions. Otherwise, there is a general career email to careers@woostel.edu. But if you say that, it may help to direct that you're at this session so the person reading that knows where to direct you. But please reach out with more questions later. We know we can't get to it all today. The question I wanted to go to next was a question about the internship itself. How prepared were you for your internship? Did you have to pick things up as things went along? Were you given training? Did you already know a lot? I know there was a little bit touched on, but yeah, more of that. Like, if I go into this internship, I don't think I know anything. How is this going to work? Anyone want to jump in?
Anna, go ahead.
I think like most people don't really know a lot, especially your freshman year. You won't really know a lot of what you're going to be doing. And I think any job that will offer you on-the-job training, because every job, every company uses different software, every company has a different way of doing things, has a different way that they want their projects to be done. So you won't just be like tossed in the deep end and, you know, expected to just kind of know everything off the bat. They will teach you, they will give you a mentor. I felt very intimidated going in to all of my internships all years, but every time I'm always pleasantly surprised that they will support you in any way that you need, and they really are also there to support you. I know internships are a lot of the time seeming like students are like desperately the desperate ones, but you know, companies also really do want to cultivate relationships with students because they want you to come back after you graduate, and so I think that's just also something you can keep in mind.
Yeah, I think so at my internship this past summer, I started out very intimidated because everybody was extremely intelligent and it was a small, very fast moving company and everybody knew what they were supposed to be doing and how they were supposed to do it. And I kind of felt like I came in like, hey, I'm a college student, like what's my job here? But I think finding the right balance, and it takes time of being humble and open-minded enough to realize that you are a student there to learn, but also confident enough to remember that like it doesn't matter if you're a first year student or a senior, like they hired you, they vetted you, you are qualified, and you are the person that they want to work with. So they want you to bring your skills and knowledge, but also a willingness to learn, listen, fail, get back up and continue. And finding that balance is difficult at first, but make sure you also don't overcompensate and write yourself off because you are supposed to be where you are. So like, go for it.
Yeah, I'd second that. I think that imposter syndrome is really real. But the other nice thing that I learned is that people really like interns. Like if you're an intern, like a lot of high up people will talk to you. I wouldn't suggest like necessarily going to your CEO and trying to set up a meeting, but like I was able to talk to a bunch of really high up managers and stuff this past year. And I wish I had taken advantage of that previous years because people love talking to interns and love talking about themselves. So definitely take that opportunity to try to make connections there as well.
I would say in addition to talking to those higher up people, another really great resource that I definitely overlooked my first 2 years was the other interns. If you're lucky enough to be in an internship with other interns, those people can be a great resource to maybe ask those questions that you're embarrassed that it's your third week and you don't know how to do XYZ. For me, it was where is the bathroom? It was like the end of week one and I was like, it's too late now. I can't ask where is the bathroom at the end of week one. So not being afraid to like build relationships with not only those upper level management, but also like the other interns, because they can be a great resource too.
Yeah, for my internship, I think I mentioned it briefly before, but a lot of what I was doing, it wasn't like any calculus or any physics or anything. To get more specific, what I did was I was reading a lot of like FDA guidelines and guidances and just kind of synthesizing that into presentations to help like, I guess, educate any like clients or people within the company about different topics. So that was stuff I hadn't really done for a long time. Like a lot of my classes so far had been very like math and science and technical focused. But one of the great things about my experience was I definitely think I did grow a lot in terms of maybe more of the soft skills or less technical skills. Just kind of like talking to different people. Like every day we would have a different meet and greet with someone in the company. And like Amanda said, like that even ranged all the way up to the president. So stuff like that, I definitely became a lot more confident in that sense, as well as presenting, doing something like this. I had to give a presentation to the entire company. So in terms of preparedness, I guess there is a lot of learning you do on the job. And I think a lot of companies expect that. And even then, like the most important skills aren't necessarily math and science. It's just being professional and friendly. And like Alex said, always being willing to learn. And that goes a long way.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to put in final plug. So we already said, work on your resume, go to the Spotlight and other events. One event we didn't mention, we do something called Career Early Action that happens around Thanksgiving, because that's a good time to really think about this, right? Some panelists mentioned going home at Thanksgiving and your parents asking what's going on. So you don't have to start with the Career Center today, right? We want you to get settled in class, get settled in groups, right? You don't have to start looking for your internship today necessarily, but get settled and then look at some of these things a little later in the semester. I'm also hoping Kelly might want to put in a plug for her UConnect site that you'll be getting emails from as well. You're on mute.
Thank you. We were just talking about that earlier. Late last spring, we launched a new career platform called UConnect, or McKelvey Industry Connect. And it's just a way to streamline how we communicate with students about job opportunities that are posted in CareerLink, upcoming events, blogs, related to all sorts of different industries and communities and affinity groups. So you'll be getting weekly emails from that after a few weeks into the semester, but I'm also going to post a link up here because I think it'd be great if you could kind of take a look and see what's out there. And if you have ideas that you'd like to contribute, if you know about specific career articles or things that you come across, send it our way and we'll be happy to post it on there. And we're still working on developing some of the content. We'll build out some of the student organizations and how that ties to different industries, but take a look. And the biggest thing is just read your emails, whether it's from the UConnect or the Career Center or your professors, because that's how we communicate with you about all of this important information.
All right, awesome. So I know we have to wrap up because I know you all have other places to be. I want to thank our panelists. Let's give them all, I know it'll be silent for most of you, but a round of applause. This has been excellent to hear all these great things. Again, I know we didn't get all the questions answered, but a lot of us put some chat information in the chat to contact us. Do reach out. We don't want you to do this alone. Ask more questions. There's no bad questions. There's never a bad time to ask questions. It's never too early and it's never too late. But we're so excited you're here.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.